statute of limitations on many cases has run, including assault, assault on the elderly, theft, robbery, all of these different cases, which even if investigated right today, right now, and they tried to file a case, nothing would happen. Now, I also want to speak about this independent panel, review panel. It's not independent. Two of the people are Houston lawyers. Another one is Texas Ranger, which we don't mind the Texas Ranger being on there so much if they were the only investigation, because that's a state agency, not a city agency. The other individual works for the Harris County Jail, and the third one is a political associate of the mayor. There's nothing even remote about this group to be independent. We need a true independent organization and a group, that has members of the community, members of LULAC, members of ACLU, members of NAACP, members of Asian civil rights groups, Muslim groups. This is not independent. And this has been going on for 8 years. And Chief Finner has been the police chief for quite some time, but before that he was an assistant police chief. Do you think that there are tens and tens of thousands of cases which were just set aside and that assistant chiefs didn't know about it, that this is a surprise? Oops, who did this? First of all, it's in the paperwork. It's in their official policies. And those have to be approved. You just can't put something in a policy and not have it approved. That was approved. So we believe, or excuse me, not we, some of us are differing opinions, but I believe that the police chief should step down, at least from this investigation. And that's what the union says as well. The police officers union wants the chief to step down and not so as not to influence this very investigation, which probably should be looking at the chiefs of police, including Chief Finner. So I'm here today with members of the public and to speak to City Council and the mayor about these issues which are not being addressed. And next we'll hear from Hai Bui.
Hi, my name is Hai Bui. I'm the founder of We the People Organize. My group was founded to hold elected officials and HPD accountable. My main mission today is to ask this question. In the past 5 to 10 years, HPD received in excess of $60 million of federal money. The question is, what happened to that money? Where did it go? We're asking the mayor, and I was asking in a couple of minutes, is to have an audit of that money. Again, more than $60 million of federal money was allocated to HPD. The question is, what happened to it? Did they hire more officers with it? Or, we need a full investigation of that. That's my simple message today. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I also want to expound that we have on my website, looking for victims to help. We have a portal so that more victims can reach out to us, and that we will have a town hall real soon for the victims. Thank you.
Next we'll hear from Cynthia Cole.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Cole. In my official capacity, I'm the Executive Director for the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees. That's AFSCME Local 1550. For today, I'm here as an advocate, as a community-concerned individual. And so my message is this: when we get finished pointing the fingers, the problem has been there for quite a while. We're pointing fingers, but it hasn't come to any solution. We're pointing fingers, but no assets have been applied to a resolution. Now, we can hang it on one person or we can hang it on 10, but what we better hang it on is that we got a problem. You don't create a benefit by saying, everybody, you know what, we're just going to wipe the slate clean, we're going to throw somebody in there, and they're going to all of a sudden be able to take care of the problem. The problem is the victims. The problem of the individuals who will never have justice. The problem of those individuals who will not have vindication because those cases are now not in a position where they can be investigated. So we don't have just a backlog or all of these problems. We're throwing money at what? You need resources. Somebody needs to ask the question, how much does it cost to process these cases? Somebody needs to do a market comparison to determine whether or not you have enough staff, those are municipal employees who can do the job and take care of the backlog. That is a problem. It's not a us and them. It's a y'all problem. Y'all, we all got a problem.
Next one here from Jeffrey.
Hi, pardon me. My name is Jeff Reese. I'm with the Greater Houston Coalition for Justice. I was with the Houston Peace and Justice Center, and I was a former sergeant with the Harris County Sheriff's Department for 26 years almost. And it's very few times that the activists and the officers are on the same page, but I'm here to advocate for the first responders. These people had nothing to do with this. When someone calls 911, they dispatch an officer to the scene. That officer then investigates and determines if the crime has been committed. If the crime's been committed, he does an offense report. If it's not, he'll do an incident report, which means it's not a crime. So that offense report, then he'll call the ADA, get approval to bring his, I guess, the person in custody and book him into jail. Then he finishes his report. Well, that report has to be approved by a supervisor, like a sergeant, okay? From there, it has to be approved by a lieutenant, and it has to go to the right department. If it's an assault, it goes to crimes against persons. It's a robbery, it still go to crimes against persons, but whatever the crime is, has to go to the right department. Then it has to go through their supervisors and has to be assigned to a detective or an officer to investigate. Well, in this case, that's where this happened. When they put that on the report, they're not going to investigate because they don't have enough manpower. Well, you know, what happens? Who did that? Did the officer do that, or did the brass do it? It's usually the upper brass. I know in my position, they usually have sergeants so they can blame. It's kind of a midterm first responder and supervisor. They usually get the blame for this, and usually it's not their fault because decisions like this in policy have to be made on a higher level, a lieutenant, captain, or assistant chief or chief. And I guarantee you when it gets to that level, they all know about it, okay? Whether it was in their policy or not, it's going to be done the way they want it done, or you've just disobeyed a direct order. And the officer that does this will then in turn face disciplinary problems. And I think what happened here is 2 captains have already been demoted, and the HPOU sent a letter out in support of separating Chief Finner from this investigation so it won't happen. What usually happens is the upper brass protect themselves and they make them sacrificial lambs and they fire them or face disciplinary charges, and then everything goes back to normal and we forget what happened. But I don't think this is ever going to be forgotten, and the people responsible need to be held responsible. And it's not up to them to decide who's responsible. I think it's up to us. So thank you very much.
Next one here from Tammy Campbell.
I am Tammy Lane Campbell, founder and executive director of the Honey Brown Hope Foundation. I'm here to express my concern for a broken system. HPD is not the judge and the jury, and that is what they have been doing and denying people an opportunity, victims, to at least get their day in court. They have deemed themselves as judge and jury, and we are asking for them to be held accountable, not for them to be allowed to be judge and jury in this situation and in this investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions of any of us?
You mentioned a victims
Sure.
portal. Have you heard from any of these victims or witnesses who have their cases suspended?
Yes, after Fox, when I had my first press release, Fox ran the report and the entire press release, and I had a couple of victims reach out. And unfortunately, they're just so traumatized. I spent half an hour listening to her on and on and on. I just don't think she's ready, but I'll ask, so far I have like 2, and they're both very fragile at this time.
Randall, let's be perfectly clear here. You're saying you believe Troy Finner lied to the people of Houston when he said, I just found out about this in 2021.
I don't have absolute proof, but if one were to look at the position that Troy Finner is in, and also that he was an assistant chief, and this involves 264,000 cases, it's not reasonable to think that he did not know earlier.
But you don't have proof.
What's that?
You don't have proof.
I have no proof.
Brando, are you planning any legal action in regards to this?
No, I have no clients. I'm here as a member of the public, and hopefully we try to get some resolution of this extremely severe problem, which I, by the way, have not seen elsewhere in the United States. I've Googled and Googled and Googled and not seen a similar case where 264,000 cases were just set aside.
Randall, I brought some of those concerns about the independent panel that you made to the mayor himself. The response I got was, this is not a criminal investigation, that the panel is comprised of credible and well-informed individuals with vast experiences and diverse backgrounds. What's your response to the mayor's response to those concerns?
Well, the first one is it's not independent. He didn't address whether it's independent or not. I don't see how someone can say that a panel made up of 2 lawyers from the entity which is being investigated and also 3 other members, or at least 2 members who are in law enforcement, and the 5th one being an associate, a political associate of the mayor, is anything but independent, which contains nobody from LULAC, nobody from NAACP, nobody from any civil rights organizations, or no member of the public, just basically people that the mayor knows or he controls through their salaries.
Why is that such a problem if you don't have this true independent panel in your mind looking at these cases?
Well, for one thing, one of the members is Arturo Michel. He's the actual city attorney. He may have actually approved and looked at the policy change. I mean, lawyers look at policy changes, and so when they added that SL designation to take the cases out, he might have looked at it his very self, if not one of his underlings did, because you just don't make changes to the policies without having it looked at and scrutinized. So the concept that they didn't know about it and is not really reasonable. And so you have people who might actually be persons who are somehow involved, and they're the ones investigating themselves. The fox is guarding the hen house. We need an actual independent investigation.
You mentioned the union earlier, and you're saying that the union believes that Chief Finner should completely separate himself from the case, if not step down. Is the union asking for Finner to step down? And why aren't they here with you?
Well, we didn't invite the union, but on occasion the union agrees with civil rights organizations, not very frequently, but on occasion they do, and they have in the past. And we did see the letter from the union, and basically that's what they're saying. The union letter, which was directed to the mayor, states that Chief Finner should at least be set aside for this investigation because, one, he is the chief of IAD and could exert some influence.
Where do you see this going? I mean, they have the independent panel, you know, what's happening. Where do you see this going?
Well, right now I see the old political delay system. Form a panel, and we'll investigate, and we'll come back to you later. There's no independent panel, and we believe that there should be more in the way of solutions. How are they going to address all of these individuals whose statute of limitations have run? I mean, one of the news stations reported that there was a sexual assault victim, and in the actual report, apparently the sexual assault victim actually identified a person as a friend of the friend, which sounds like you could hunt that person down, because the police would just ask the friend, well, who was that other person, and they would find out who it was. So apparently it didn't even depend upon how easy the case was. They just stamped the stamp SL, and the case was done with. And furthermore, apparently, according to the mayor, these elimination of cases was used for political purposes to make the crime stats sound better in Houston. So there was a political motivation for doing this. So it seems to come from the top, because I don't know why a patrolman would be wanting to have better crime stats. They're just doing their job.
Are you insinuating that maybe the previous administrations?
Well, that's what actually the actual mayor of Whitmire said. He said that it probably, looks like the previous administration had used this tactic for better crime statistics.
How would you rate the mayor's handling of this? I mean, he wasn't there very long while this was going on, but his response to it.
I give him a high score as far as the admissions he's made, because he's come out and said some things which, were lots of good admissions and so forth. But however, now that the investigation has started, he needs to keep that transparency. There is no transparency right now As a matter of fact, the media has been directed not to, well, actually the members of the committee have been directed not to speak to the media. I don't know if y'all have been trying, I think y'all have. So what we have right now is a lack of transparency and the delay setting in. And also we need more solutions. Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quite a while before we had